it's Nancy with Nancy's Nibbles of Life, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please, why don't you consider subscribing? I am on the WW plan. I'm on the blue plan. I get 23 points a day, and I love to bring you these recipes. If you're a current subscriber, welcome back to the channel. Your presence means everything. You know I'm on a mission to get 1,000 subscribers, so the more the merrier around here. So today I have a wonderful Simply 5 recipe that I am excited to share with you, and it's a stuffed pork recipe. So if you're ready to get into it, let's go. Okay, so this recipe that I'm bringing you guys today is from the Simply 5 cookbook. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm trying to cook my way through the Simply 5 cookbook. And I have lots of good videos out there for recipes from the WW Simply 5 cookbook. If you're interested, the recipes, I let you know the points for all plans, so not just blue. So check some of those out. But today I have something great for you, and to me this recipe evokes spring. We're on the cusp of a great spring season, and this recipe just kind of makes me feel like spring is on the horizon. The recipe today is called a cherry and thyme stuffed pork recipe. Let me show you the picture. Looks good, right? So this recipe serves 8. I will only be using a small loin that I have in my refrigerator because I generally don't want to cook for so many people since it's just my husband and I. But it serves 8, and it's 4 points across the board on all plans. So let me tell you a little bit about the ingredients. All right, the ingredients that you will need for this cherry and thyme stuffed pork recipe are 1/3 of a cup of dried cherries. And if you know anything about me, I don't always have everything the recipe book calls for, and that's real life. Sometimes you have to substitute. I have instead dried cranberries. So I'm going to use dried cranberries, 1/3 of a cup of those. You need 1/2 of a cup of some kind of all fruit spread. I'm actually going to use a sugar-free strawberry jam that I have. Saved me a couple of calories. I'm going to use the sugar-free strawberry jam from Smucker's. It's a great jam. I love it. You're going to need some breadcrumbs, and I have my panko breadcrumbs here. You're going to need 3 teaspoons of that. You're going to need some chopped thyme, and guess what? I'm going to use these dried seasonings that I have. It's dried thyme. You know, dried seasonings just last longer in your cabinets. In fact, I like to buy them in this package. Sometimes in the grocery market, you know, you'll see this section of foods that are in these kind of plastic packages, and they save you a little money, and the quantities are much smaller, so you're not wasting your dried seasonings and herbs and they're just kind of sitting around waiting to go bad. Get the smaller package, save you a little money, and you can pull those out anytime you need them. You're also going to need, of course, a boneless center cut pork loin trimmed, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And you're going to need some salt and pepper. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven, and then the ingredients call to make the stuffing by combining the cherries, jam, breadcrumbs, and thyme all together. So we're going to do that, but first we're going to put a little hot water in our dried fruits so that it softens up a little bit, as the instructions call for that as well. So let's go step by step so I can show you this wonderful recipe. It's 4 points, like I said, across the board. I'm going to make a smaller version of this recipe, but I want to bring you the points for as the recipe calls. All right, are you ready? Let's go. our stuffing for the pork loin, I'm going to go ahead and get the pork loin ready. And what you're going to need to do is divide the pork loin, cut a little strip down the middle so that you can open it up like a book. I have about a half a pound of a pork loin here, and I'm going to go ahead and trim off any excess fat that I see. Cut it open, and then I'm going to place a piece of plastic wrap over the pork loin, and we're going to pound it out until it gets a little thinner so that we can make sure to put our stuffing in it. So you only want to cut it a little bit from the top. You want to leave a little room at the top of the loin, but maybe an inch or so, and then start to cut it so that you have a little bit of a closed ending on that pork loin. And then we're going to stuff it with our stuffing, and then we're going to need a little bit of kitchen twine, and we're going to wrap this pork loin up so that when we cut into it for our serving, you could see that beautiful stuffing on the inside. So, are you ready for the next step? Don't forget, we're also going to season the pork loin with our salt and pepper, but I'd like to do that right before we put it into the oven. So let's move on to the next step so you could watch me do that. All right.
Just another sunny day in Southern California. It's where the people came to play. Don't let them transform you. Oh, come and see what you've been missing on a little slice of heaven.
I was able to use that kitchen twine and roll that pork loin up. Pretty easy. I had a couple of holes poking through because I cut a little too much into the pork loin as I was preparing to open it up like a book, but that's okay. You know, sometimes you have to roll with those kind of things and just poke that stuff and right back into that loin. You also want to wrap the ends of your pork loin on the end, tuck it on the inside so that none of that stuffing escapes. So it looks good. It's in the oven. It's 400 degrees inside that oven, and you want to roast it for 45 minutes. The internal temperature of the pork should reach 145 degrees. Another bit of instruction here calls for you to baste your roast a little bit with some more of that fruit spread. So we're going to give it another maybe 15 minutes in the oven, pull it out, baste it in a little bit of that fruit spread. Since my pork loin is a little smaller, I'm just going to let it run for a half an hour. Then we'll pull it out. The recipe says to let it sit for 10 minutes. I'm sure to get all of those juices settled down. And then we'll cut into it. And then you know what time it is. The taste test! And we'll get to see that beautiful center and give it a whirl and see what we think. So let's let it cook for a little longer. I'll bring you back here when it's time to baste it in a little more of that fruit spread. Okay. I just wanted to show you how I decided to create the baste. So I added a little bit of that sugar-free jam into one of my glass bowls, and I added about a teaspoon of water, and I'm just mixing it. And that'll get it to a little bit of a liquid consistency, and then I'll use my basting brush and put it on top of that pork loin. Okay, I'll continue stirring so that I can kind of get it to a syrup consistency. All right, it's out of the oven. The moment of truth. I have let it rest for about 10 minutes. I made sure the internal temperature was at 145 degrees. It looks wonderful. You see it has that red kind of hue to it since we basted our roast with a little bit of that fruit spread. So let's cut into it. It's small enough to where I could just do it that way. And look at that. That filling is inside. You can see it there. It looks wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna cut me off a little piece and let you know what I think. Okay guys, while it's warm, I've cut me off a little piece. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a taste. So first thing is first, the stuffing looks really good. My cranberries are still intact. See that? And it looks like a beautiful color. That pork is a little bit red, kind of matches with the stuffing on the inside. Let's give it a taste. I love the sweetness that comes through from that stuffing, especially with that jam that I added. Really good. You know, this is a special enough dish where you can invite guests over and impress them with your kitchen twine skills. Wow, well this is another lovely recipe brought to you by the Simplified Cooking Book. Remember, it's 4 points across the board and very easy to make. 45 minutes in the oven and you have something very special. So, wow. Listen, thanks for rolling with me today. If you like the video, please don't forget to give me a like and also leave me a comment. I'd like to know what you guys are thinking. It really helps each other out when we have dialogue and talk about these recipes. You might have some questions about the ingredients. Happy to answer. Leave me a comment. Okay guys, I will catch you on the next video. So again, thanks for watching. See ya.